What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm reviewing the ninth Doctor Christopher Ecclestone story, Dalek. This is, of course, Series 1, Episode 6, and it is the first kind of, I'd say, big story for the new series of Doctor Who. I mean, the first three episodes were kind of just, first episode being, just the introductory episode to the series and the companion and the Doctor. Then we had just a couple of fairly light-hearted, not super crazy episodes. We then, of course, had the two-parter, so that was a fairly big story. But all in all, if you watch my review on it, I wasn't actually as big of a fan on it as I used to be. So still haven't really had a really big story. But then we have this one, reintroduces the Daleks to Doctor Who. First time we see them in the new series, and it is a massive episode for that one. Probably the darkest episode so far as well. So yeah, let's get into it, starting off with the cast. Christopher Ecclestone as the Ninth Doctor. No question, this has got to be his best performance so far. Ecclestone is so good here with the Dalek. He portrays the darkness of the Time War and everything the Daleks have ever done to him and his race. He just performs that all perfectly well. The worry, the fear, the aggression and anger that he portrays in this episode is just like anything. Honestly, this may even be his best performance of the season. It's definitely up there. I mean, it's a really good episode just on its own, but spoilers, by the way, I really like this episode. But it also just has some of the best acting. Maybe, I don't know if, I mean, we'll get onto Adam Mitchell in a second. I don't know if it's his acting's terrible. I think it's more just the character. Yeah, Christopher Ecclestone is amazing here. Like I said, possibly his best performance of the season, definitely up there. Billie Piper as Rose Tyler also has quite a lot to do in this story. She is a big focal point of this one, actually. And yeah, she does a really good job as well. Lots of stuff with the Dalek, lots of stuff with Adam as well. I wasn't the biggest fan of, kind of the romantic sort of feeling that she seems to have with Adam in this story. I mean, we're remembering that she doesn't have a romantic relationship with the Doctor. That really only starts with the 10th Doctor. There's maybe a little bit of it towards the end of this season, but they are more of just kind of a friendly sort of duo at this point in time. She does, of course, still have Mickey, though, back at home. And although their relationship seems a little bit on the rocks at this point, it still seems a bit off and a bit that she's being quite flirty with Adam in this story, and I'm not the biggest fan of that personally. I guess it's just kind of showing that, yeah, she really isn't, she's forgetting about Mickey. I guess that's kind of what it's supposed to portray, but it does make me a little bit kind of like, okay. And then I will mention Bruno Langley as Adam Mitchell. Adam is not a particularly loved character, more so I think for the next story, because he is, well, at the end of this story, he enters the TARDIS. He is effectively a new companion now, and we have him for the next episode, The Long Game, and then he's gone very quickly. But yeah, in this story, I think as a character, he's fine. Like I said, the somewhat romanticness with Rose, I'm not the biggest fan of. Him as a character, though, I think is okay. He's fine. There's not really much else to say. Alright, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this episode. First of all, first Dalek appearance in the new series. Of course, that is the big thing for this episode. The Daleks were the biggest monster of the classic series of Doctor Who, and we see them back here kind of midway point of Series 1. And yeah, of course, we only see one Dalek. This story, the story is called Dalek, and we only see one Dalek. It is known to be the last Dalek in existence. Of course, later on, that doesn't really end up being the case. That is the case for a lot of things in Doctor Who. Daleks, Cybermen, Time Lords, they always think they're the last one, and it turns out they're not. But yeah, for this story, really well done. It just shows how devastating the Daleks can be, even just one Dalek. This also kind of happens again in, I guess, Resolution. I mean, Resolution definitely isn't as good as Dalek, nowhere near, but I still don't mind Resolution. But, both these stories really show you how devastating just one Dalek can be, and it's done to perfection in here. I absolutely love it. The Doctor and the Daleks conversation. So that is one of the best scenes in, I'm going to say in New Who, when the Doctor goes in to the enclosure where the Dalek is. Of course, it's all dark at first. He doesn't know what this monster is. He sounds, goes in there thinking like, what has Henry Van Staten done to you? I'm here to help. I'm the doctor. And then the lights turn on and the Dalek is revealed. And my goodness, the fear on the doctor's face is unlike anything we've seen before. He is so terrified of this Dalek. But then when he realizes that its weapons have been disabled, he just starts laughing and he's like, haha, you can't do anything. You're useless basically without your gun. And it's all tied up. So he just has this conversation with it and he absolutely rips into it. But then they kind of have this moment where, the Daleks start talking about he's the only one left, and the doctor's like, yeah, you're not going to get any orders. And the doctor talks about how he's the last of the Time Lords because all the rest were wiped out in the Time War. And then that line where the Dalek's like, you're alone in the universe. And then he's like, so am I. We are the same. And the doctor's face, it just drops. It goes from a smile to just this drop. And the performance is amazing from Chris Ecclestone. That just, we are the same. And then he turns around and yells at the Dalek. Then he's like, wait a minute, maybe we are the same. And then he's like, exterminate. And he, electrocutes the Dalek. That whole scene, that whole confrontation with the Doctor and the Dalek is absolute perfection. Henry Van Staten collects alien artifacts for profit. So now we kind of get onto, what the main premise of the story is, or at least what Henry Van Staten is doing here with his museum. Basically, he's found all these alien artifacts and he's put them in this museum, and he now, basically is hiding these away from people. I think because, in the future, this stuff's going to be useful and he can, make a profit off this sort of, crazy alien technology. So it's a really kind of, it's a bit of a, I don't know how to put it, but it's not the most, it's not the nicest thing to be doing, to be honest. Especially the fact that he's keeping this Dalek alive as a prisoner here. Is pretty brutal, and the Doctor figures out what's going on with Henry Van Staten pretty early on and figures out that he's a bit of an asshole, and just that whole dynamic and everything is really good. Rose gave the Dalek life by touching it. How does this work? Now, this is probably the only small issue I have with this episode. Now, they did mention it, that I think they said something about, because what happens, the Dalek's there looking all sad, and Rose is feeling sympathetic of it. She doesn't know what a Dalek is, so, to her it's just this creature that's being, tortured and captured by Henry. So she's feeling really sympathetic for it. She puts her hand on it, and that kind of like burns her hand, and then the Dalek kind of regenerates itself. And later on, it's said that because Rose has travelled in the TARDIS, travelled through time and everything, she has this ability, because everybody else that's touched the Dalek, they said, has pretty much just evaporated into nothing. She touches it because she's travelled through time. That's actually given the Dalek basically regenerative powers, which I don't really understand completely. I don't really know how that works. Like, how does travelling through time give Rose regenerative powers to give to this Dalek? Rose can't regenerate, as far as I know. So how does that? I don't really understand how that works. Maybe I'm missing something, but personally, I'm a bit iffy about how that works. The Dalek can fly upstairs. So you've got the iconic moment where Rose, Adam, and one of the soldiers goes up a flight of stairs. The Dalek's at the bottom of it, and they're like, he can't get up the stairs. This crazy killer machine, but it can't, defeated by stairs. And then it goes elevate and just starts floating up the stairs very slowly, like really slowly, but starts going up the stairs. And that's a pretty iconic moment. It's actually not the first time that a Dalek's flown up the stairs. Of course, in Remembrance of the Daleks, the final Dalek story of the classic series, we had a Dalek fly up the stairs then as well. So that is kind of a rehash of that. But it is a pretty terrifying moment of it just going up the stairs, the music that plays, looking through the eye stalk. It's just a little bit silly that it goes so slowly. The Dalek killing the soldiers by turning on the sprinkler and electrocuting them. That is another one of the best scenes in this episode. This episode is just full of best scenes, to be honest. When it kind of sets off the kind of fire hydrant sort of thing, the fire suppression system, and water goes everywhere, and I guess the ground is like somewhat metal or something. And yeah, shoots the floor and electrocutes everybody. Yeah, that's, I mean, yeah, is the floor metal? I don't even know if that's the case, or if it's just normal. If it's just normal floor, how does that really work? But I guess, yeah, if the exterminating gun is electric of some kind, that just hitting the water and then hitting the people, I guess that makes sense. But that's just a great, the Dalek didn't have to do it like that. It could have just, slowly gone around, shoot everyone one by one. But it was like, I'm just going to show you guys how maniacal and how clever, I guess, and that I can be. And I'm going to, just do this like this. I'm just going to take my time, and then bam, you're all dead. And then, I think does a similar thing to the people that are like on top of, like, not on the ground as well. So yeah, just that whole moment of the Dalek in the rain, it's just pure Doctor Who. The Daleks saying the Doctor would make a good Dalek. Oh, another amazing Doctor and Dalek moment. I think that is in that same sequence, after the Dalek has killed all these soldiers with the water, the Doctor basically just says, why don't you just die? And absolutely he goes so aggressive on the Dalek, and just, it's a side of the Doctor we haven't seen before, and it just all goes quiet. Nobody says anything for a few seconds, and then the Dalek just goes, you'd make a good Dalek, because of how aggressive and angry the Doctor is. And that just, once again, it's another one of those moments where the Doctor's face he just looks defeated. He's just like, what am I becoming here? And that is a big part of this story. I'm just going back on this. I only watched this a couple of days ago, but just going back through these notes and thinking about all this stuff in my head, God, this is a good episode. The Dalek won't kill Rose. So yeah, there's this whole thing of, we think the Dalek has killed Rose. The Doctor thinks that Rose is dead. Turns out that it didn't kill Rose, and it can't kill Rose because basically her touching the Dalek, her DNA somewhat has gone, by her touching it and regenerating the Dalek, some of her DNA has gone into the Dalek itself, and now it's not 100% Dalek. It's feeling emotions that it's never felt before, and it's feeling a connection with Rose because she was the one that basically brought it back to life. So it cannot kill her. And, when the Doctor eventually comes around and with that massive gun to kill the Dalek, Rose has to pretty much talk the Doctor out of it. She has to be like, look, it didn't kill me. It was at one point where it got right up in front of Henry Van Staten as well. But I think Rose, or it might have been the Doctor, said, no, don't kill him. And it didn't. The fact that it hasn't killed those people, she's like, something's changing here. This isn't right. And the Doctor realized this. He's like, yeah, this is not like a normal Dalek. And we find out that, the Dalek is basically no longer a pure Dalek anymore because of what Rose, Rose bringing it back to life. It's no longer pure, and that is the worst possible thing for a Dalek. If a Dalek is not 100% a Dalek, it doesn't matter if it's the last Dalek in the universe. To it is no longer a Dalek. So it goes ahead and kills itself because it's no longer pure. It is no longer a Dalek to itself. So its balls sounds really strange, but its balls kind of go around, make a massive ball around it, and basically just completely obliterates it, and the Daleks are no more. And that is an emotional end. It's a very emotional end, when the Dalek opens itself up, wants to see the light, and that's a big moment. And it's a really clever and interesting end to this episode. Just such a good episode. So yeah, lots and lots of praise for this episode. It is an absolute classic. It is 100% the best episode so far this season. Like I said, the season actually starts out quite slower than I remember it starting. I reckon the second half of the season is definitely where it picks up, but this is definitely the high point so far. I have got to give Dalek a 10 out of 10 for sure. The only slight issue I have is how Rose touching it makes it regenerate itself because of the whole, you've traveled in the TARDIS sort of thing. I'm a bit iffy about that, but I can look past it. The rest of this episode is just so amazing. It's a slightly nitpicky thing, so it has got to be a 10 out of 10 for Dalek. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.